Krista Seiden. She's an experienced leader in the digital analytics industry and a frequent speaker at the industry, which also makes her a frequent flyer because she's traveled around the world. She loves to travel. She loves to run. She's an avid scuba diver. She's from the San Francisco area, so if you guys are from that area, you got a little connection there. She's also a very, very smart girl here. She holds a BA in Economics and Political Science from the University of California, Berkeley, and a marketing certification from the Wharton Business School. So she's a really cool person to talk to, and she'll be hanging out after a presentation as well. So let's give her a crowd goes wild. Please welcome Krista Seiden, everybody. And the crowd goes wild! Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be talking to you today about essential analytics to turbocharge your CRO. So thank you for that lovely introduction. Again, I'm Krista Seiden. I am the analytics advocate at Google. Prior to being the analytics advocate at Google, however, I played a few other roles, or was in a few other roles, wore a lot of different hats. And I spent many, many years as an actual practitioner of analytics and optimization at companies such as Google, the Apollo Group, and Adobe. So a lot of the things I'm going to be talking to you today actually come from my experience and time running analytics and optimization programs. I also am the co-chair of the San Francisco chapter of the Digital Analytics Association, and I tweet pretty avidly and blog. You can see the addresses up there. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to talk to you about 4 things today. So first, we're going to set a baseline. What is analysis to drive your CRO? Then I'm going to give you 5 tips for accelerating CRO through analytics. Then I'm going to give you a bonus tip, something I like to call a rapid optimization plan. And then I'm going to finish up with what we see as the future of testing, adapting, and personalizing. So let's go ahead and dive right in. What is analysis that drives CRO? Well, let's start with the baseline. What is optimization? It's the ongoing data-driven process of continually discovering and quantifying the most effective experience for your consumers, both online and offline. But I think the 2 words that really stand out there to me are data-driven, and that's why I'm here today to talk to you. All of those data-driven aspects that you're going to pull out of analytics to really drive that optimization. And then there's testing versus analysis. So if you have a question of what layout might work best on your website, that's probably best served with a test. But if you want to know what content performs better, maybe that's done with analysis. But they do go hand in hand, and you can use analytics to really justify those high-value tests that you want to run. And let's take that one step farther and think about it in terms of conversion rate optimization. So I really see this as 3 parts. First, you need to develop those ideas, and you can use analytics to help you identify the customer pain points on your website or your different experiences. And then you can run experiments to kind of try to get to a more optimized place. And finally, you refine those, you measure the results, and you continue testing. So there are many factors that can contribute to your low conversion rate. And these are some of them. But you can really use analytics to pinpoint what those factors are and take your optimization programs to the next level. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump in and start talking to you about those 5 tips. So a lot of people who would have a presentation topic of tips for analytics in CRO would probably stand here and talk to you about their 10 favorite reports in Google Analytics or your analytics platform of choice that they use to identify tests. Now, I am going to talk to you about some of my favorite reports, but I actually think it's much more holistic than that. I think it starts out with implementation. So first, let's look at implementation. So I think you need to use campaign tracking to distinguish your variations when you're testing. And this comes in many different forms. So I'm sure a lot of you do email testing, headline testing, different CTAs in emails. Use campaign tracking to know which CTA drove the highest conversion on your website. Which button in your email did they come from? Which headline of which email copy worked best? Ad testing, very similar. If you're testing different ad copy or different images in your ads, you also want to use UTM tracking. And I specifically call out UTM_content here if you're using Google Analytics. This is basically a bonus field in the campaign tracking string, and I like to use it to call out the actual variation number or use a description of the variation that I'm testing. So maybe it's free copy or 10% off sale or something like that. It'll add a lot more light to your analytics when you're going ahead and looking at that analysis later on. And finally, social media. So tag each social media post with unique UTM parameters. So this is actually a screenshot of my analytics account from my blog. And every time I write a blog post and I tweet about it or I put it on Google Plus or something, I use unique campaign tracking parameters for each post, different for G+ than Twitter. And you can actually see there on the screen, you see G+ / social and Twitter. And it looks like for the most part, Twitter outperforms G+ for me. There's a couple posts that did better. It really depends on kind of who retweets you or reshares you, as you guys know. But I can do this analysis because I tagged each post individually with the social channel that they're coming from. And then there's the data layer. There's your actual website. So if you're doing web testing, you should be using a tag management system. And if you're using a tag management system, you should be using a data layer. In the data layer, for every test that I run, I have an EID, an experiment ID. It's a variable I'm sending in my data layer. This is just an example. It says index.html. This is a non-test page. But for every test page, maybe it's a number of that test variation. So it might say like 680000501. That's the test variation number that we're testing. And then in Google Tag Manager, I'm going to grab that EID, that data layer variable, and I'm going to send it to a custom dimension so that in Google Analytics, I'm collecting a custom dimension with every hit from this experiment so that I can use that to slice and dice my data layer later on and know exactly which experiment variation was associated with each of the different events or page views that went on. So here's an example. I told you I worked in the Google for Work group at Google for 2 years. I built an optimization program there for 2 years. And one of the things we did was just what I told you. We sent an experiment ID with every test variation. So in the screenshot, you can actually see over here, those are the numbers, 6800, whatever. And it's actually concatenated in this variable with the test name. So the contact us versus talk to an expert test. And that way, in Google Analytics, when I pull a report, I can actually see each variation and the test it was associated with right there against all of my test metrics. Makes it very, very clear in my analytics reports what's performing well and what is not performing well. OK, tip number 2. Now that we have our baseline, we're implemented, we're ready to go ahead and dive in a little further. So analytics goals to track your CRO success. So in analytics, you can set up a lot of goals, and you can track your conversions with those goals. This is actually one of my very favorite reports in Google Analytics. It's the funnel visualization report, and it's based on a goal. So in this case, the goal is apps trial signup. And I have a bunch of steps that lead to that trial signup. So for context, the Google Apps for Business group is the group that sells Gmail, Docs, Drive to businesses. So in this case, we have a 30-day trial sign-up process, free trial, and we want to get people through a 3-page sign-up flow. So you can see we have step 1, 2, 3, and then finally they completed that sign-up. And I can see how many people are progressing through each step and where they're falling off. So having a goal in place makes this possible. So I just showed you this screenshot a little bit ago, and I was talking about custom variables and the experiment ID. But let's look at it a little differently. So across the top there, I actually have all of these different goals. So you can see I actually have goals for page 1, page 2, page 3, trial signup, and a few of the things that we tracked all of our tests against. And in this case, I'm tracking micro conversions, so making it from step 1 to step 2, and macro conversions, such as signing up. And these goals make it possible to look at all of this in one place, one report, against each test ID and variation that I have, because I've got them all tagged with that EID. All right, so this is the Next Web. They're one of our premium clients, or our Analytics 360 Suite clients. They've graciously allowed me to use them as an example. And they are doing some testing on their website. Actually, they're doing a lot of testing. And these are some of the goals that they have set up for their website. They're a large content publisher, if you've never heard of them, kind of similar to like BuzzFeed or The Verge. So they're looking at how people are interacting with their website. Did they go 2 or 3 pages deep? Did they click on a most popular article or something in the sidebar? And what's really cool about goals in Google Analytics is that they work seamlessly with our new optimization product, Optimize 360. So the next web is actually using Optimize 360. And you can see this is a screenshot of the objective setup in this tool. And they're actually able to pull in the goals from Google Analytics right into this testing platform. And you can see they map perfectly. So they clicked on the most popular pages. That's a goal they had set up. And secondary objectives of going 2 pages deep or of clicking on a sidebar post also map to goals that they have set up. So really, really actionable to have those goals set up first, because then you can use them right in your experiment setup. Similarly, this is my own blog. If you've ever visited, I blog about analytics, optimization, Google Tag Manager, a bunch of things. And I'm currently running a test on my subscribe via email box. I'm just moving it around to different places on the site, seeing if it performs better above the fold or lower. And I'm also using Optimize 360. And these are some of the goals that I have set up for my website. So in this case, I really care if they subscribe to newsletter, that third line down. So as you can see, my objectives actually map right to these goals, subscribing to newsletter, and secondary objectives of if they did a relevant search or they bounced. So that was goals. I think goals are really, really important before you can even consider testing. You need to know what you're measuring against. Now let's look at our actual site. Your websites can tell you what's important in several different ways. So first, site search. You guys using site search? I see some heads nodding, that's good. If you guys have a search box on your website, if people are allowed to search for something and pulls back relevant articles or links, you can enable that to be tracked in Google Analytics to pull out the search terms that people are actually searching for. So in this case, again, this is from my own analytics account from my blog. And here I see that people are searching for campaign tracking. It's one of my favorite topics. But also a lot of different searches for Google Tag Manager. I've blogged a decent bit about Google Tag Manager. I taught the Analytics Academy course on Google Tag Manager. But clearly, it's a popular topic on my blog. And the site search report is telling me that. So maybe I should take this information and use it to determine my roadmap for different posts that I'm going to write. Maybe I should blog more about Google Tag Manager. Also, heat maps. So this is not Google Analytics. This is one of my favorite products called Crazy Egg. Heat maps can be really, really cool. There are a lot of different products out there. This one I like in particular, especially for this report. So the one you see on screen right now is the confetti report in Crazy Egg. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this report, but you can do some really cool things with it. So basically, you see all of the different colors here. And in this case, it's looking at the refer. So what referring source sent people to this website, and what did they click on? And you can see that a lot of people are clicking on different things when they came from the red and the orange source here. But what makes this tool really, really cool is that you can actually change that from refer to a bunch of different other metrics, such as demographics, or like where did they come, what country were they from. You can look at different types of referring sources, source, medium, different things. My personal favorite is time to click. So you can actually sort all of the clicks on your page by how long it took somebody to click on something. So did it take them less than 1 second after they landed on this page to click? Or were they on your site for a minute before they clicked on anything? So when I was at the Apollo group, I managed a couple of different websites for analytics and optimization. One of them was a career portal. So we had just spent a lot of time and effort developing this brand new career portal for our students, and there was 3 main calls to action above the fold. And there'd been a lot of debate about what we were going to highlight here, what resources we really wanted to show, and we wanted to see that people were interacting with them. So in Google Analytics, we were seeing that the clicks on these resources were pretty low, and we didn't really know why, because a lot of people were coming to the site. So we implemented Crazy Egg on the page, because Crazy Egg will actually track all clicks, not just clicks that are a link. And what we saw was each of these resources had a picture, and right below that picture was the link out to the resource. people were clicking, overwhelmingly clicking on these pictures, thinking that they were clickable elements, and they weren't at the time. And very few people were then going ahead and clicking down on the link right below. They were leaving instead. Really unfortunate, because we'd spent a lot of time and effort developing this website, and we really thought these resources were great resources for people. Clearly, they were interested, but they weren't able to get to those actual resources through the means that they thought. So this led us to then quickly make a change and optimize that site for what people thought that they should be able to do, which was click on those pictures to get to those resources. So really cool tool. Another use case back at Apollo, we had an internal social network that we had. And you could click everywhere on this thing. There's a lot of different posts. But we specifically wanted to see if people were using this to dive into their classroom discussions or a few other key links on our page. So when we looked at Crazy Egg, what we saw, we analyzed the time to click. And what we saw was there was kind of a great divide. There were people who would come to this social network. It was kind of a landing page in the classroom when they signed in. And they would click out within 1 second, 1 to 2 seconds at most. And so what we took away from that is these people are not looking through this content, engaging with this content, taking advantage of all of this effort that we had done to moderate and provide a lot of really good content on this social network. However, there was also a lot of people who would take 60, 120, even more seconds to click. And that gave us the assurance that at least those people were, in fact, engaging with this content and looking around to try to find the best resources for them. And that helped us to design our UX a little differently and led to some changes in the website. So I think heat map products can be really, really cool and can lead to insights that you wouldn't necessarily get out of a regular analytics tool. All right, so I said I would mention some of my favorite reports. This is where I'm going to do that. So devices report, and you're looking at this specifically against your conversion goals. So in the devices report, you can break out all of your website traffic by what device people came to your website from. Was it desktop? Was it mobile? Tablet? So in this case, we're back on the Google Apps for Business website, and we're looking at their goal of trial signup. So I see here that desktop, it's about a 1% rate of trial signup. That's pretty good. It's a pretty involved trial signup process, so this was about average. But I can see that tablet and mobile specifically are significantly underperforming. We don't have a ton of tablet and mobile traffic, but we have enough that we probably want to focus on optimizing that sign-up flow for both tablet and mobile because those rates are so much lower. Browser reports. So this is an interesting one. You can actually look at all of your traffic by what browser they came from. So in this case, I see that the average conversion rate was 0.92% again for a trial sign-up. But Internet Explorer is significantly underperforming here, 0.42% compared to everything else. So if I click into Internet Explorer, I can actually see the browser version report. And what I see here is that specifically it's a couple versions that are driving this number down, right? It's version 8, 7, 6, all the older versions. So I happen to know that we might have stopped supporting some of these older versions a while back. But clearly, we're still getting a significant number of visitors from these versions, especially version 8. Maybe we should consider extending that support for version 8 and making sure that our website is optimized for people coming from IE8. Site search. So I mentioned this earlier. This is a little different cut of it. This is a site search report, again, in a custom report against each of my different goal steps. And what I can see here is the words that people are searching for on the Google Apps for Business website, and how then they progress through trial signup. So Google Drive and Google Apps Free, several people who searched for those words ended up signing up. People who searched for other words, not so qualified, right? And then one more time with the fallout funnel. So I told you this is my favorite report, and this is why. So if you zoom in to step 1 and 2 here, you actually see there's a huge fallout rate between the first page of the sign-up flow and the second page of the sign-up flow. So people have already come to our website. They've clicked on a button that says Get Started for trial. They go into a trial sign-up flow, and they're on the first page of the trial sign-up process. And then they drop off. And this report tells me that a large majority of those people dropping off are actually exiting. So clearly, there's a mismatch of their expectations for what they think should be on that first page of the sign-up flow and what's actually there. So to me, this screams opportunity for optimization. There's so much that it can probably do on this page to give people more information or to make them more comfortable to proceed through that sign-up flow. A few other cool reports that you can look at. Look at high traffic, high bounce rate landing pages and segment them to see if your performance varies by different metrics, such as demographics, your browser, device type, location. And then if you're an Analytics 360 customer, you also have something called custom funnels. This is really cool because you can actually build out your own paths of what you think people should be doing and see where they fall out. And where they fall out, you can actually create segments to target those users, and you can use those segments later on to target a test to them. All right, tip number 5, qualitative surveys as CRO tiebreakers. So I don't know about you, but a lot of the tests that I have run in the past, I've actually implemented a Google consumer survey, or just a survey, on the control and on the test variant. Same questions, but I want to know if people are qualitatively responding differently to the different versions of the website they're seeing. So maybe it's a satisfaction survey. How satisfied are you with this experience? In the Google Apps for Business group, I'm going to tell you a little later on about a new website that we launched. But when we launched this new website, it was pretty different than the old one. It was organized differently. And I wanted to know if people were able to find the content that they were looking for better on the new site or on the old site, or if they found the new site less confusing. And so these were questions that we asked in the survey. And I don't want to spoil the surprise later on, but the survey result really helped us to push forward with the right variation because the qualitative data added a whole nother layer to that analysis for our testing efforts. You can also ask things like, who are you? Are you a marketer, an analyst, or a C-suite? And that gives you another lens to analyze that data against. OK, so those are my 5 big tips. But now I want to give you a bonus tip. And this is, I titled, Analytics to the Rescue with a Rapid Optimization Plan. So in September, I think it was September 24th, 2012, I joined Google. And I joined in the Google for Work group. And this is what our website looked like at the time. And exactly 2 years later, on September 24th, 2014, I left to go to the Google Analytics team. And this is what it looked like at the time. Pretty different website, right? So how did we get there? Well, we tested our way there. We tested a lot. So over 2 years, we ran 453 unique variations in 159 tests in 25 different locales around the world across 4 different product lines. And we took away more than 50 key learnings from all of this that influenced the design of our new website. So what did we test? We tested a lot of CTAs. We tested what CTA at what time in our optimization process was right for that audience. We tested headlines. We had this headline, discover a better way of working. This is a really interesting one, actually. I'm going to side note and tell you a little story about this. So marketing loved this headline, discover a better way of working. They thought it was holistic. We were selling a suite of tools, such as Gmail, Docs, and Drive, that together we're going to make it much easier for you to work in the cloud or collaboratively with your organizations. Engineering, however, came to us and they said, we have the data. And we see that actually 80% of all people who sign up for Google Apps for Business only ever use Gmail. They're just coming to the website to get Gmail for their own domain. So let's change that headline to the bottom one, get email for your domain. So we agreed to run this test. It was a little bit contentious between marketing and engineering. Marketing hated this new headline, but they said, there's no way, absolutely no way it's going to win. We're fine. Turns out 2 weeks later, when the results validated, it did win with about a 20% increase in trial signups. Very significant win. And I was getting frantic pings from both sides. Marketing VPs were pinging me saying, don't you dare launch that new headline. And engineering VPs were pinging me saying, if you don't launch this new headline, we're going to stop supporting your testing platform. Not a good place to be in the middle, which is where I sat. What we did end up doing, because engineering's that was quite real, we launched that new headline, and then immediately launched a few follow-up tests to try to get back to a little bit more of a marketing-friendly message. What we finally ended up with was get Gmail for your domain with subtext of something like and docs, drive, and all these other things. So interesting little side note there. Make sure when you are launching test ideas, you get both sides to agree prior to launching that test. Otherwise, you're going to be in a sticky situation when the one you didn't want to win wins. Anyways, so we tested lots and lots of headlines. We also tested images. We used to have this very cartoony image on our page, and they really wanted like real-life stock photography. So we tested that. We tested in-the-moment photography as well, or pictures. So at the time, the World Cup was going on in Brazil, and we made some headline or some stock canvas photos that had footballs and different things to try to capture that audience. We tested our pricing page, lots of different variations of it. We used to have a really ugly little checkbox grid, and we got to a little bit more friendly of a grid with some images and stuff. And we even tested demos. So we had very different views on what types of demos would be best on a marketing website. So some people wanted a really lightweight demo that you could just click through and see a few pictures. That was this one. Some people wanted something that was kind of in between. It was a little more heavy, like you could mostly click through, but you could interact a little bit. There'd be some prompting guides to kind of enter your own email or whatnot, and it gave you a sense of what you were doing. And some people wanted a really, really heavyweight demo that was basically a sandbox of the product right on our marketing site. So this test actually was really cool because it let us know the appropriate type of demo for a marketing site versus later on in the process. And what we found was that lightweight demo was best for the marketing site, but that more heavyweight demo was best when people were in trial and not actually utilizing the product as much as we wanted them to. So which test won? So before I tell you, let me tell you how we decided. So we had a 30-day sign-up trial process, or 30-day free trial. We only ran our test for 2 weeks. So if we ran that test for 2 weeks, when that test validated, we wouldn't actually know if the people went from trial to paying customers, right? So we'd run a lot of tests over the previous year and a half when we finally got to this point, and we knew that if we saw about a 5% increase in trial signups, we were pretty golden for that conversion to paid trial. We weren't worried that enough were going to drop off that it would make it not worthwhile. So we set that as a minimum. We said, if we see a 5% increase in trial signups in the 2-week period, we will go ahead and launch this new variation. And if we don't, we will wait that 30 days, and in the meantime, we will launch a series of follow-up tests. So, spoiler alert, the new site did not win. It was about flat. So we didn't reach that 5% mark. So I dove into Google Analytics, and I said, OK, where is this new site underperforming? And I was able to come up with 3 key areas. So our old site had that lime green button, right? Pretty ugly. I know a lot of people will tell you never trust button color, it's not worth it. Well, let me tell you, that was one of the most impactful buttons that I have ever seen in my life, and button color here really mattered. So we tested a new green button on that new site rather than the blue button that marketing really wanted to go with because it was more aesthetically pleasing. Because we had seen in the data that people were really under-clicking on certain areas that had that blue button. Another area that we saw in the data was that the pricing page wasn't performing nearly as well in a couple of areas. And those couple of areas correlated to areas on the old site where we had some nice little graphics before that were colorful. And on the new site, they decided to go with this really clean look and took away the color. So we decided to bring back that color. And then the last thing that we saw was that the trial button at the very bottom of our website on the new site wasn't getting any action. And the new site itself had some animation below the fold that if you scrolled too quickly, wouldn't load. So you would basically just see a blank screen. So I don't know about you, but a lot of times I get to a site, I scroll pretty quickly. If I don't see anything, I'm probably going to leave. And that's what we saw a lot of people doing. So we took away the animation and just made that still imaging. So we came up with these 3 test ideas. We called it our rapid optimization plan. And we launched them within a day of the first test completing and us being able to figure out what was going on. And so we ran for another 2 weeks. By the end of that 2-week period, we saw that that test validated, those 3 tests validated. We ran 3 separate tests. We also ran a test where we added all 3 things together. And we saw that 5% increase that we needed. And so we were able to go ahead and launch that new website quickly, but in a very data-driven manner. So a lot of times people will spend a significant amount of time and money building a new website, which is what we had done here. And the desire amongst the group is going to be to launch it no matter what. But we were able to quickly optimize it while not wasting a lot of time, but launching a site that actually did perform as well as we had hoped. So I actually wrote a blog post on this. There's a short link there if you want to learn more about the rapid optimization plan. Give you just a second. All right. So how about the future of testing, adapting, and personalizing? So understanding your customers is difficult. A lot of different intentions, a lot of different customers who act in very different ways on your website. In an offline world, it's much, much easier to have an engaging conversation, pick up on somebody's body language, understand kind of who they are and what they're after. But online, that's more difficult. We do have analytics, though. And analytics helps us to segment and slice and dice our traffic so that we can understand if people are coming from a certain location or if they are in certain age groups or have certain interests on our website. We can start to segment out these people. But even still, a lot of the times, we serve them the same web experience, the same page to all of these different groups of people, even though we have the insights to know that they are different and have different preferences. So we have actually done a lot of research into this. We've launched a few optimization products in the past. You may be familiar with Google Website Optimizer and content experiments. But we wanted to take that one step further. And so we took all this and we said, hey, the biggest problem that we see with tools out there today is that it's really hard to get actionable data both in and out of testing tools. And that's why we created Google Optimize 360. It's a better way to test and personalize your experiences for each of your customers. So I've alluded to it a little bit through this presentation, but there's really 3 key things that Optimize 360 brings to the table. So first, it has a really easy-to-use editor. It's WYSIWYG. You can drag and drop, click to change different things around, insert HTML, insert JavaScript. It really can get very, very powerful. Adapting, we have an advanced Bayesian statistics methodology behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about anything, but we are really concerned with that data being very statistically significant for you. And then finally, personalization. So personalization here, I think, is the really, really big bonus of Optimize 360. I've mentioned that you can use your goals, your Google Analytics goals, to analyze your experiments against. But what I didn't talk about earlier was targeting. So Optimize 360 actually allows you to use the segments or audiences that you build in Google Analytics to target experiences to different customers on the web. So a couple of use cases. Let's say you're a travel brand, and you want to segment your customers in analytics by different types of spend. So we're building an audience in analytics here for budget travelers, medium spend travelers, and luxury travelers. And let's say we want to target different experiences of your website to each of these different types of customers. If it's a budget customer, when they come to your website, you know that they're a budget customer because they've been there before, you've segmented that traffic in analytics. You probably want to show them affordable options on the website. If they're a luxury traveler, maybe you want to serve them up ads for the St. Regis or something really nice. So you can do that here. Similarly, if you're an online retailer and you want to show a different web experience to people that you deem to be high dwellers on your website, but maybe haven't converted. So in this case, I created a segment in Google Analytics that says their sessions is greater than 3, and their time on site is greater than 500 milliseconds. So now I'm targeting people as they're on the site, knowing that they have come here several times, they've spent a lot of time, but they haven't yet converted. So I'm going to serve them a different experience. So pretty cool. So just to kind of wrap up Optimize 360, it's an enterprise-level testing and personalization tool, but we've made it really simple. Simple to use from start to finish, easy WYSIWYG editor, advanced Bayesian statistics, and personalization. And it all works seamlessly with the data you already have in analytics. Because this is the scenario that we all want to get to, where you create those variations, you serve them, you analyze the experiences, you deploy those winners, and you make a better experience for your customers. So in summary, I talked to you about 4 different things: analysis to drive your CRO, my 5 tips for accelerating CRO through analytics, the rapid optimization plan, and the future of testing, adapting, and personalizing. So thank you.